Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with generalist engineer and author Don Holman. He is a small-town boy that worked on farms, milked the family cow, became an engineer, served in the military, learned to fly and scuba dive, worked in the Arctic and the South Seas, and a copper mine, and in high-tech manufacturing and a municipal government. He has 2 sons, 3 granddaughters, and was a caregiver for his wife for 4 decades. He writes to entertain, yet he wants to educate and give readers the opportunity to consider new and different situations and how such things might change their lives. Coming from his base in Hawaii, we spoke about a great many things. He always thought of himself as a reasonably simple guy, shy, but blessed with a great imagination with limitations. He's got a great story. Enjoy. Great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to meet you.
So you're located in Hawaii, huh?
Yes.
How's Hawaii today?
Well, I haven't been outside yet, but it has been wonderful yesterday for Christmas. It was a great day.
Well, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and we're getting our first fleck of snow here. It's finally getting cold.
No, I spent a couple of years down in Alabama and Georgia, so that cold down there is cold.
It's cold. Yes. Yes, it is. So Don, I want to begin everything with you with our conversation. How did you survive the last 3.5 years? How did you get through COVID, and how did it change you?
Oh, COVID, basically I ignored the whole thing. I eventually got COVID, but having a good immune system, it was not as bad as a bad case of flu.
Yeah. So let's get to the crux of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 3rd graders at Career Day. And I know you're an author and an engineer, but I want to kind of get to the essence. If one of the kids was to ask you at Career Day, what do you do for a living? How would you answer them?
I would say I'm a generalist, which means that I know enough about a whole bunch of different things to know when to call for help.
So in other words, a generalist engineer.
Generalist engineer. I also have a lot of related or unrelated experience. I grew up working on farms, small town. I was in the military. I worked up north, meaning north of the Arctic Circle. I worked in the tropics. I was a chief government engineer for the Marshall Islands for a year. Scuba, farming. I was a surveyor for the railway. I've worked remodeling. I still do handyman work. So I'm pretty handy. I can do almost anything. But probably the thing that shaped my life the most was that I was dyslexic, and fairly seriously dyslexic, as it turns out. Later in life, I had a minor head injury, and it made it worse. But I grew up dyslexic. I had a real tough time. Nobody knew about dyslexia back then. There wasn't, oh, he's a little slow learning to read. Well, that was me. And when I finally managed to get so that I was reading pretty good, I started reading 6, 7, 8 books per week for years and years. So we had a small town, but it had an excellent library, and I read a lot of books out of that library.
So when did you start writing? When did that become your vocation?
Well, I was always imaginative. I had a great imagination, and I liked the first ones I read were about like the early American heroes, Daniel Boone, David Crockett, Thomas Jefferson, all the early American people that had remarkable lives. And then I got into science fiction and other fiction. And I said, oh, I would like to write a story. So I started making notes for a story when I was about, I don't know, 13, 14. And that morphed into a book that yesterday night, or actually early this morning, I sent in to my publisher, and it should be out within the next month or so,
Wonderful.
hopefully.
So, where were you born and raised? How did these seeds of being a generalist engineer and a writer, how did all of this sprout into who you are?
Well, my father, because he didn't, there was no money in the family, if you will. Um, he was very handy. I grew up, he had a shop, and in our basement, so I learned to use the bandsaw, jigsaw, press drill, uh, planer, jointer, lathe, wood lathe, metal lathe, all the hand tools, starting when I was like 7 years old. So I sort of came by it naturally to use and do whatever I could imagine. Um, I even later got to be a reasonable untrained welder. But so I went in, I learned things, I enjoyed um, working, creating things, and it just morphed into storytelling. I enjoyed the like Louis L'Amour, one of the greatest American authors. Uh, he's had 130, 40 books published, and I think 20, 25 of them were made into either TV series or TV movies or feature movies. So it kind of came naturally that I would be interested in storytelling. Uh, my main handicap was that I had a hard time remembering names. So to do a book, I do a storyboard with the characters and develop them that way.
So, who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration for you in your life?
I think I've had several. My father, hardworking, he was injured. He grew up with a major back injury. He still kept working and never lost his temper, even though he was in pain most of his life. Uh, Other heroes, the people I read about, the early American heroes, and people like Louis L'Amour. Uh, One of my favorite books was Kim by Rudyard Kipling. I think that's right. And then science fiction. I enjoyed people with character and tried to emulate that.
So, if you can meet one person alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh, I'd like to meet Elon Musk and tell him that his Mars Direct isn't the way to go. He should do near space industrialization first.
Okay. So, what is your motivation every day? What is your motivation to be who you are, to get up, to accomplish what you want to get done? You know, you just submitted your book. What is it every day that makes you go?
Well, I took care of my wife for 42 years till she had a stroke. She's now in a home and uh, hardly doesn't recognize me anymore. She has Alzheimer's. But while I was taking care of her, I did most of my writing. By the time she had her stroke, I had 10 books written. And I never had the wherewithal or the time to, polish them and get them published. I now have one published and three with publishing companies. So I should have four out within, 2 or 3 months. And
So
I have
what's
six more to go,
okay.
7 more to go.
So what's been one of the best responses, best letters you've gotten from somebody that's that's read your work?
Well, it's just been out there, so I really don't have much. I've got some remarkable. I got a remarkable review from a contest that I entered. Uh, I, I was blown over by the quality of it, how they all the things that they liked about it. So it's I like to I like to entertain, but being an engineer and having done a lot of teaching, I also want my stories to be educational, to get across the uh, things of interest, technology, uh, character, um, being being that I write science fiction and then I'm an engineer, I talk about, well, if somebody has to use a spacesuit, they don't just put it on. They have to get all the adjustments made. They have to learn about the plumbing. They have to do all the things that somebody that actually was going to use a spacesuit has to go through. You have to fit it. Since these are multi-purpose suits, they just come in like small, medium, and large. Each suit has to be customized to the wearer so that it doesn't chafe. You can wear it for long periods comfortably. Uh, you have to learn about the maintenance, recharging the air, recharging the batteries, all that sort of things. So as applicable in the story, I don't just say they put on their suit. They have to get it. They have to learn about it. They have to read the manual. They have to get it on and get it customized. And then that suit is theirs. It has their name on it. So that is sort of a small example. If they find in the what story I just sent in, it's called Ghost Planet. They know of a spaceship that has getting into the story is probably a little much right at the moment, but they find a spaceship that has been programmed as a robot killing machine, but it had a time limit. Once the time limit was up, it hid. The main character saw it hide, and they go out. He recruits a crew, basically, and they go and they find this spaceship. It's been in multiple battles, and it's been on its way for a 5-year time limit. And they have to repair it. They have to get fuel. They have to get... So all the various problems and challenges that they have to overcome to first to get to the ship, then to repair it, then to leave once it's repaired. And so my stories get into technology, into hard work, human relationships, goals and this sort of thing, so that people that read the stories, there's a fun story. There's, the problems, the things they have to overcome, the accomplishments, the risks, but also along the way, there's all the things that involved in overcoming the problem. How did they do it? Why that, not something else? So the thought processes, the mental challenges as well as the physical challenge.
Interesting. So, probably a part of what you're talking about a little bit is AI. Does AI worry you? What do you think about that?
I think the approach to AI right now is not a good approach. In this ship, the ship is very, very highly automated. and very capable of doing AI. And when it was programmed to be a killer ship, they overrode it with AI program that had no morals, no anything else. But the ship that was original programming in the ship was that the ship always asked. It never did anything on its own. It had to be directed. It could make suggestions, but it wouldn't do things on its own unless it was told to or told how to or etc. And I think the basic programming for AI needs to be such that, ChatGPT has been found to create references that it can then put in its little write-ups, and its references are not necessarily correct. It makes things up and writes them, and that is, to me, shows that the programmers have done a very poor job of putting in no morals. I mean, there's no honesty. It's just, they need an answer. I'll make up an answer. That's not a good way to go, period. You should never, you should, be honest in the approach and make sure that the facts are actual facts, and that you should never make things up. So AI, I think, has a wonderful place in our potential in our society, but there needs to be safeguards and standards, and that has to be put in right from the very beginning of the design of the program.
So, of all the things that you've done and seen and overcome in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, golly. That's a tough question, because I've done so many different things. I think it's that I have kept my promises. When I got married, it was for better or for worse, and my wife had a TBI, traumatic brain injury, 5 months after we were married, and could never work. Unfortunately, we didn't realize how serious it was, so there was never any compensation from the insurance company or federal disability. So I basically took care of her for 42 years. And other commitments, if I make a promise, I keep it.
So, let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into, let's say, the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far, what advice would you give that young version of you?
I don't know. Be very careful who you marry. I don't know. That's probably to be more conscious of some of the things I have taken a lifetime to learn. I don't know how you do that on a casual basis.
Yeah.
There's questions that are, I think, kind of impossible to answer in any sort of concise way, and that's one of them.
So let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity, let's say a time machine pulls up in front of your house when we get off the phone, and you can go back in time and see one event in human history unfold before your eyes, where are you going to go?
Oh, golly. One event in human history. Well, except that I wouldn't know the language, I think the Christ in Jerusalem in his last last days would be something that would be really worth seeing, being there to witness.
So, Don, everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, colleagues, everybody that you know, but ultimately you run the show. You're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm an interesting character, persistent, not totally. I have trouble with relationships. I don't, what is the term? I don't suffer fools gently, or I like people that are intelligent and willing to use their brain in an unprogrammed way, if you will. People that are programmed and just do things by rote, I'm not interested. I like people that are intelligent, willing to learn, willing to, work at things, and are fun to be with, I guess.
Right on. Don, if anyone wants to get your book that's coming out, learn more about you, anything about your world, where's the best place to go?
Well, they will all be available on Amazon and Ingram. I also have a website. It's called Emigrants from Earth, EMIGRANTS, Emigrants from Earth. And that's all my 10 books that I've written that I'm trying to get published now are all described there right now, emigrantfromearth.com. And there's a description of all the, blurbs for all the books. And as they become available and I'm able to, there will be links to, so they can purchase them. If they want signed ones, I'm planning on having a link so they can get a signed copy.
Excellent. Don, you're fascinating. Thank you, sir, for your time today. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the book and everything in this new 2024 we get ready to venture into.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.